Leveling up. Extreme business growth through raising your game. When what was once extraordinary becomes ordinary, you know you've leveled up.
Hello and welcome, I'm George Swift from Bigger, Brighter, Bolder, and this is the Leveling Up Podcast. The Leveling Up Podcast is here to give you the personal development, the entrepreneurial development, and the business growth that you, the ambitious business owner, desires. I'm here to give you the inspiration, the motivation, but above all else, to challenge your aspirations to take you and your business to the next level. Don't forget, subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. In this episode, we are looking back at episode 55. All week this week, I'm digging out some of the best episodes from the past, and specifically the ones which are relevant right now, maybe even more relevant right now than they were when I first recorded them. This one is all about what I call the ripple effect. It's about what you put out coming back at you. Everything you do, everything you think, all the feelings that you have, they interpret, they manifest, if you like, through your behaviors, through your actions, through your reactions, and therefore you get back an echo of what's going on inside of you and obviously what actions you are taking in the world around you. There is a link between each of these things. What's going on inside your mindset, inside your thoughts, inside your emotional responses, through your behaviors, through your action taking, and therefore the results that you're currently getting. The analogy I'm going to share with you is one of a pebble that gets dropped into a lake. It drops into the lake and there's a ripple effect that goes on and on and on. And if it doesn't interact with anything, then it just goes on and on and on. But the moment it interacts with something in the external world, it will bounce off it. It will impact it. It will have an impact on it. And of course, also then that ripple will then start to come back at us. And that is our reactions. That's our results. That's our success, our failures. It's our struggles. It's our strives. And I think given what we're going through right now as entrepreneurs, it's never been more important to make sure that we are aligned with what it is that we're trying to create. There's many woes, there's many foes, there's many fears and worries and anxieties out there. There's many challenges out there for us right now. But it's really important that whilst we are aware of what's going on in the external world, what we're trying to navigate in the external world, it's very important that we keep ourselves fully aligned with what it is that we want to create in terms of the experience of life we want to have, the experience of being an entrepreneur, but also, of course, what it is we're trying to create in life for ourselves and in our businesses. If we get detracted, if we get distracted, whether it's negative news and media, whether it's through unforeseen circumstances, challenges, whether again it's the fears and the anxieties that we might have given the difficulties that we're going through in business right now, it's really important to make sure that we keep ourselves aligned with what it is we're trying to create, where we're taking our life, where we're taking our business. And this episode is all about understanding the impact that we have in the world around us and taking full responsibility for the results that we get back, the reactions that come back at us, and therefore the life that we get to create, not just for ourselves, of course, but for those closest to us and for the world at large. So without further ado, I will hand over to myself from the past. Enjoy this episode where I take you through the ripple effect and how what you put out in every single possible way gets echoed back to you. So basically, as a human being, we are constantly being faced with making choices and taking action. There's things that we know we should be doing but aren't doing. We know there's things that we shouldn't be doing that we are doing. And the question is really simple, which is how much damage or good are we doing through taking the right or the wrong actions or reacting in the right or wrong ways? But the truth of the matter is, I think individually, I think the idea of the butterfly beating its wings causing a massive avalanche on Everest, I don't know. I think it's conceptual as a concept rather than an actual real likelihood. But I think in our life, the truth is the individual decisions, I think, could go on, you know, like the quantum effect, where a change in decision today or a change in action from what we could have done can deviate life onto two different paths that maybe take us to two very different places. I believe, however, that not many of our decisions and not many of our actions create that kind of cataclysmic changes, right? Whether that's for good or for bad. I don't think they really impact that much. I think it's more about the consistency of the action taken and the consistency of making those decisions. In other words, I don't think it matters that you made a bad decision yesterday, because I believe you get to make a good decision today and you get to make a good decision tomorrow. And there's probably another 1 million, 2 million, 100 million, who knows, decisions that you're going to make before the end of your life. So therefore, one wrong decision, inverted commas, or bad decision, I don't think it's going to massively negatively affect your life. Of course, it's that sliding doors moment, if you know the film, where, one slight change in your reality today can create a huge difference in outcome down the line. Well, yeah, I guess in principle that's true. However, I think in realistic terms, if we lived our life constantly thinking that the decisions we were making, the choices we were making, the actions we were making were life and death like that, I think we'd probably stop making decisions, right? I think we'd stop taking action, because I think we would just be paralyzed by the fear of getting it wrong. The truth of the matter is, I don't think it matters today whether you make a bad decision or a wrong decision. I don't think it matters if you make a bad decision or wrong decision again next week or even tomorrow. And I don't think it matters your wrong decisions or your bad decisions in the past. Do they affect your present? Yes. Will they affect your future? Yes. To what degree? Well, I think it's down to the consistency of those decision-making moments. I think it's the consistency of the action taking that we do. I think if you have a lazy day today, will that have a negative knock-on to your overall success in 10 or 20 or 30 years? Well, yeah, because you're one day less productive than you would have been. But realistically, in the big scheme of things, how much damage could you possibly do by having one lazy day? Of course, it's negligible, right? Any more than if you have one super productive day, it's going to be negligible, even though, it may be measurable in some terms of the difference that one day would have over a course of a 10 or 20-year career. It's obviously going to be negligible. However, it's the consistency of that action taking. So if you continually have lazy days, if you continually show up half-cocked, if you continually back out when you should lean in, if you continually make the wrong decisions for you or for your future, then of course that will have a dramatic effect. And that's really what I want to talk to you about today. The consistency in taking the right actions, and how if you consistently take the right actions and consistently make the right choices, the fact that you'll do some wrong uns along the way isn't really going to matter. It really isn't. I mean, yes, negligibly, but let's be honest about this, right? We're talking about maybe the next 5, 10, even 20 years of your career here, of your life. We might be talking about the next 50 years of your overall life. It's going to be negligible, right? So our job is really simple. It's not to try and get it perfect. It's not to try and, get everything right. It's understanding that it's in the consistency of bringing the best we can and consistently putting our energy and our effort into those things that are going to give us the long-term impacts that we want to see in our life. Well, first of all, you've got to start the whole process with a vision. You've got to know, what is it you're creating here? What is it that you're trying to manifest out of your time in business, your time on this planet? So you want to have a real vision for yourself. And I always say a crystal clear vision, but understand that the vision you have for your life today can only be as crystallized and can only be based on the experiences you've had so far in life, and it's your ability to envisage that from where you are right now. As you continually move through life, as you continue to walk through life, you'll realize that that vision may change. It may alter as your perspective changes, just as it does through life, but also as you become wiser, you get more experience out of life. It's possible that you will create changes in yourself. And I'll be honest with you, you should definitely be changing as you evolve throughout your life. So it's possible that this vision is going to be an organic one. It's going to be one that potentially will change slightly, or you'll change it slightly as you go through life. And that's absolutely right. I think it's the right thing to do. I think there's probably nothing worse in life than having a vision when you were 20, sticking to it doggedly, creating it by the time you were 50, and then realizing that that vision was created by a lunatic back in your 20s and he didn't know anything about life, and why the hell was I listening to him in the first place? So I absolutely believe that this vision should be fluid. However, you want it to be crystal clear in the moment, because once you've got a crystal clear vision about what you want for your life, you can then bring that to the present, and then you can start setting your goals. So across all of my success groups and my extreme growth masterminds, we only set goals 1 year at a time. So during our goal setting process, I get all my members to think about long-term vision. I get them to think maybe 10 years, 20 years, maybe 5 years in the future. And then we bring it back to this year. In other words, what is it that I need to achieve this year in order to be on track to achieve this long-term vision? Once you've got your year goals in place, we hold you absolutely accountable to those year goals. I don't want you flexing your life on a year-by-year basis, although obviously it can happen that dramatic changes can happen in any 1 year and your goals can kind of change and alter. To be honest with you, you kind of want to keep those goals as solid and as consistent as possible, because otherwise you're going to develop a really bad, nasty habit of constantly, going from one thing to the next to the next. If you don't commit to anything, you'll never really achieve anything, certainly not of any real substance. So you want to have your year goal in place. Once you've got your year goal in place, then you want to break that down into maybe your quarter that you're working on. Everyone in Success Groups does this exact process. You then commit to your quarter, to us and to the rest of the members. You then take your quarter, break it into the month. You take your month, you break it into the week, and you take your week and potentially break it down even into the day. And you can even take your day diary and break it down into the hour, and some people even break it down into 15-minute slots. And the simple truth is this: as long as I'm doing right now what I need to be doing, then I'm on track to achieve my week or my day, then my week, then my month, then my quarter, then my year. And as long as my year is in alignment with my vision, I'm still on track right now to create this incredible vision. I'm living in the possibility of that incredible vision that I have for myself, my business, and for my life. In that moment, the action you're doing is going to ripple. It's the ripple effect that will ripple out. Okay. And you're either going to be in alignment with that vision, or you're going to be out of alignment with that vision. And the reason that goal setting is so important, and the reason that then planning, and even planning down to the hour and certainly to the day, is so important, is because there's so many things out there that can pull you off your agenda, pull you off those goals and distract you. So I want you to imagine there's a path, and this path leads you from this very moment to this incredible vision that you have. No matter how big it is, right? No matter how big, no matter how grandiose it is, there is a path, there's a linear path that takes you from where you are right now to that vision. And as long as you stay on that path, you're in the possibility of achieving that vision. The moment you step off that path, you're now heading for a different route. Does this make sense? So the ripple effect I'm going to talk about right now here is the one that the action you're doing today, yes, the decision that you're making right now will create this ripple effect, and this ripple effect will ripple out into the future, and it will either be in alignment with this long-term vision or out of alignment. Your job is to keep yourself in alignment, and you want to be in alignment every moment, if you can, of every hour, of every day, of every year, because that's how you're going to make the best progress towards this incredible future that you really can have and you can create for yourself. Now, here's the thing I caveated right at the beginning. Do I think it matters if you step off path every now and again? Well, no. I mean, will it slow your journey down? Yeah. But, we're talking about 20 years and a big vision. So if you're 1 or 2 days late, does it matter? If you're a week or two late, does it really matter? But if you're a year or two late, well, that probably does matter, right? So I have another saying, well, I'll quote myself again, and I say, every day you don't do what you need to do in order to create that future vision is another day at the other end that you don't get to live it. In other words, if you don't do what you need to do today in order to create that future, then you're one day late achieving that future, which means that's one day that you won't get to live it. Now, right now, we're sacrificing, sitting on the couch eating pizza and watching football or something and thinking that's a good trade-in, thinking, I'll do it tomorrow. But actually, if you could go to the future 10 or 20 years, and let's say this is you out in Marbella and you've got the car you want, the life you want, whatever it might be, right? Maybe you've created a charity, you've helped all these people, and you're living this incredible life every day. I'm telling you now, the day that you're sacrificing now, okay, is worth like a fraction of the day that you're actually sacrificing in the future. In other words, you're gaining sitting on your ass today being lazy, but what you're sacrificing is one day of this amazing life in the future. That one day in the future is going to be worth, you could argue, 10 times what your day is today. So you definitely want to be investing your day today in keeping you in alignment with that future. So these ripples will go out. These ripples will either align with this future vision or they'll not align with this future vision. They'll take you towards it, they'll keep you on the path, or they'll take you off the path. The truth of the matter is, I think you will deviate. I think we all do naturally. The knack is to get ourselves back onto that path as quickly as possible and as often as possible so that we don't stray too far from that path, because then we really can delay our arrival into that future. Now, the other thing I want to share with you about this ripple effect, and that is this. The ripples obviously don't go just in one single direction. So again, we were talking right at the beginning about this idea of a butterfly beating its wings and then, the avalanche over Everest. And this is kind of the ripple effect of your actions and your behaviors and your choices you're making. Not only are they aligned with this future vision, but obviously they ripple out in kind of 360 degrees. Like if you dropped a stone in a pond, the ripples go out 360 degrees, which means the decisions you're making, whilst they're moving you forward, also ripple out and affect other things. So I'm going to quote myself again, aren't I indulgent? And this quote is another one that I put out on a meme. And this is, changing one aspect of life will always create a ripple effect across all other areas. A large part of creating change is being brave enough to take full responsibility for all you want to happen and all that needs to happen. So what I mean by that quote is, when I take responsibility for my vision, when I take responsibility for my goals, when I take responsibility for my life and for my future, I have to understand that I'm also going to have to take responsibility for any knock-on effect, any ripple effect, any fallout that might have. So for example, when I set my course and I take action towards my goals, the action decisions I'm making ripple out 365 degrees, and some of those ripples will have unwanted results or unwanted reactions. Does this make sense? So for example, we always want to, just improve my health and improve my confidence, but I don't want it to change who I am, or I don't want it to change my life. Now, of course, if you give yourself a big boost of self-esteem and confidence, you will naturally be different, behave different, and make different choices and decisions. And those choices and decisions and actions will ripple out, not just in terms of making you more confident, etc., and not just also, taking you towards maybe the goals that you have and the future that you want, but they will also bounce into other people and other aspects of your life. And some of the consequences of that might not be what you would choose. So let's say, for example, you're a wife and, you've had low self-esteem, low confidence for some time now, and you really want to find yourself, you're getting frustrated in life and everything else. You go out and you find yourself a coach, a mentor, you go and do some self-help, you join a gym, you meet some friends, whatever it might be, right? And you start to really build your confidence and your self-esteem. Now, you'd imagine that nothing bad can come from that, right? It's a very positive thing to do. And of course, it is a massively positive thing to do for you. However, not everyone in your life is going to respond well to that. It's possible that you'll have some friends, for example, that start to say things like, well, you've changed, right? Okay, you've changed in a negative sense, putting you back down again. It's possible that even your husband, right, and the people closest to you might not know how to treat you, might feel threatened by this new positive version of you. They might feel threatened in themselves, and in doing so, it may create some conflict. Now, I've had this with business owners, with women, where they have really found their heart. They've really found what they want to do with their life and what they want to do in terms of their business. And they really start to assert themselves, and it can cause real fallout back home. Now, there's a whole host of reasons for that, okay? And obviously, you want to try and work those out with your other half and everything else. But sometimes And I've had this in my own groups. We had a member and she was lost in her business and she wasn't particularly happy. She wasn't particularly happy at home, and she found her passion. She found her calling. She found her purpose. And as she started to move her life down that route, she got more confident and stronger, and it created some ill feeling at home. And unfortunately, her husband just couldn't get behind her, couldn't support where she was going, where she was taking her life and her business, couldn't support her in terms of who she was becoming. And unfortunately, although fortunately, if that makes sense, it did result in the end of her marriage. Now I say unfortunately because at no point when she embarked on this journey did she do it thinking that she was going to end her marriage. At no point was that a choice or a decision that she'd ever made. Fortunately, I say it because, of course, it had to happen in order for her to truly fulfill herself and to fulfill her own vision and her purpose and her calling, and ultimately to be and do what she felt and feels today she had to be and do. She had to create big change. The ripple effect that went out impacted areas of her life that she didn't intend to create change. As my quote says, changing one aspect of life will always create a ripple effect across all other areas. A large part of creating change is being brave enough to take full responsibility for all you want to happen, your vision, your goals, and all that needs to happen, in this case, unfortunately, the breakdown of her marriage, in order to achieve what she wanted to achieve, be who she wanted to be, and ultimately do what she knew she had to do. Creating change is hard enough. Creating change has its own challenges in and of itself. But to have to then take responsibility for all of the other knock-on effects, the ripple effect that change has, is a burden and responsibility that we all have to shoulder if we are going to be empowered to go out there and create the change that we know we need to for ourselves, okay? So if you allow me, I'll indulge myself one final time in this episode by quoting myself. And here's what I suggest to people when they're faced with creating the change that they know is right for them, but they are scared or worried about this ripple effect, about the knock-on effect, about the perceived negative consequences of this positive change they're creating for themselves. First of all, you have to understand this, okay? If you are doing something from the highest place of positivity, okay, for yourself, for the people around you, for the world at large, then you have to then just accept that any consequence of that must be positive. So if I boost my self-esteem, my confidence, I get my health in order, I start to become more successful, and it's the right thing for me, and it's all positively driven and positively motivated, then all impact of that must also be positive, even if it's not what you would choose for yourself. In other words, when that lady took herself on her path and it ended with the breakdown of her marriage, the breakdown of her marriage would have been, and I'm sure it was, perceived as a negative repercussion of the positive action. However, when you realize that the positive action can only have positive results, it's the nature of the universe, it's the nature of science, you can learn to accept the changes, the impacts that you wouldn't choose for yourself as being positive in the very nature that they are reactions to your positive action, and therefore they must also be in alignment with this vision that you have for yourself. So my final thought for you today, my final piece of wisdom is this: do what you need to do with the highest of intentions for yourself and everybody else involved, and then let everyone else have their own experience. Do what you need to do for yourself with the highest of intentions. In other words, if you go out there with negative energy, if you're doing something negatively, then it will have a negative ripple effect. Go out there with extreme positivity. Go out there with the highest of intentions for yourself and everybody else involved in this. And therefore, all reactions, all ripple effects, as that ripple of those actions go out, the ripples of those decisions and choices you make goes out, as they start to interact with the world, then all of the reactions and results of that, whether it's other people's opinions, other people's behaviors, or the world around you starting to change from your action taking and your decision making, then it has to be a positive thing, and you have to allow it to be. You have to accept, like this lady did, that her actions and her intentions, her choices that she was making did accumulate ultimately in the breakdown of her marriage. Now, whether that marriage would have broken down on its own or not in due course, we don't know. But fundamentally, at the very least, what she was doing accelerated that process, if not created that outcome. But what she was doing was absolutely the right thing, not just for her, but it was the right thing for like everybody. I mean, she was acting from her highest sense of self, her highest place of purpose. So therefore, any impact into other areas of life must also be positive. Does this make sense? Even if you wouldn't choose them, and even if you wouldn't necessarily want them, you have to accept them. And that's where the bravery comes in. The bravery in accepting all the change that you want to happen and all of the change that needs to happen in order for that vision, for that future, for that outcome to manifest. Okay, guys, I hope that was food for thought. Thank you once again for being a part of this podcast. If you are a business owner and you're yet to hit 100K or more in turnover, don't forget I've got the 6-figure fast track waiting for you. It's completely free of charge. It's a webinar and it takes you through the 6-figure mindset you want to have in place, the 6-figure business model that you need to have in place, and it also takes you through 6-figure methodology. In other words, the day-to-day activities that you need to be focused on. More importantly, of course, the stuff you need to not be focused on to get you to 100K or more in revenue in the next 12 months or less. You'll find that webinar at biggerbrighterbolder.co.uk/fast track. I'll drop the link in the description below. I will see you next time. And until then, as always, be successful.
Leveling up. Extreme business growth through raising your game. When what was once extraordinary becomes ordinary, you know you've leveled up.